Oh my gosh, you're back. Well, maybe that means you watched my first video and enjoyed it enough that you're checking out the second. Thanks. Anyway, I'm Ken, the Metal Professor. I do a heavy metal radio show on a tiny station, WVLP, in Valparaiso, Indiana. We are switching over to using RadioBoss for reasons I gave in my previous video. This one will be number 2. And just to stress, what I'm doing is sort of making these as I go along and as I'm learning, because it was hard for me to find a whole bunch of tutorials that covered everything that I wanted to learn how to do. So I figured I would make some of my own. I am probably not doing things the smart way, but from what I can tell, I'm at least making things happen the way I want. Just as a recap from that first video, what we need to do at our radio station is build automated programming that will basically have automated songs being chosen 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with sweepers and jingles and sponsor mentions, underwriter mentions going in. We're nonprofit. We don't have commercials. We have underwriters like NPR. So mentions of the underwriters have to go in it many times during the day. But we also are going to have hosts like myself who create shows, and it's not just all automation. Some people will, like me, will create the shows in advance and deliver them to the station manager to put them into the daily schedule. Other people are going to go into the studio and do their show live. These shows do not cover the full 24-hour, 7-day-a-week span of shows. So the automated playlist is always going on, but when it's time for a regularly scheduled show, that would supersede the playlist, whether it's from a recorded show or whether it's from a live show. And so we need to be able to juggle all of this stuff. We need our station IDs to pretty much nail the top of the hour. That's what the previous video was about, is just getting those items going at exactly the top of the hour, give or take a few seconds, and also the bottom of the hour. The next thing I need to do is generate 24/7 automated playlists that will just keep going and going and going. Now, I've done this on our what's going to be our production computer at the station. What I'm showing you here, as you can tell by the little trial gizmo from RadioBoss, that this is just my home computer right now. So the station is licensed. I just downloaded a trial so I could do this here where I'm more comfortable. I actually have the station's computer right next to me, but it does have the licensed version on it. And the reason I'm not using that is I didn't want to have to install my recording software on the station computer. Plus, I've set all this stuff up on the station computer already, and it's sitting there, and it's been running constantly for days and days and days now, just generating playlists and keeping them going and putting up station IDs at the right times. And I've put in a couple of fake scheduled shows that lay on top of those, and that's working fine. So I'm just making sure that this stuff just keeps going day after day after day. And I still have more things to figure out, but here we are. So if you're trying to figure this stuff out, maybe this will help. And so what I'm going to do here is just sort of talk through what I've learned about how to generate playlists and then deliver them to the air, to the streaming, whatever it is that's going on. We do both. We broadcast over the air for a radius of about 4 miles, but we're also streaming online, so everybody everywhere can hear us. My show's on Wednesdays at 10 p.m. and Sundays at 8 p.m. Central Time. Check it out. If you like heavy metal, even if you don't like heavy metal, just do it. Give us some counters, please. So what I'm going to show you is how to generate a daily playlist. This window on the left is the event scheduler. I talked a lot about it in the last video, and let's scoot this over a little bit. There are commands that are being executed. There are shorthand names that I've provided just so I can reference them easily. And there on the left-hand side is the run in, and so you can see a lot of these things are counting down to their next execution. Right now it's 2:44 p.m. for me, and in a little bit over 15 minutes, another station ID is going to play right at 3 p.m. Okay. The other things I have going are commands that tonight at about 8:45 and up to 9 are going to generate 3 playlists for tomorrow. Each one's going to be 8 hours, midnight to 8 a.m., 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., 4 p.m. to midnight. Each one is going to have a slightly different mix of music depending on what time of day it is. And then these other 3 items are just the commands that are going to play those playlists tomorrow. And so that's what we're going to have going on. So, assuming you're working from scratch, you're going to need to generate a playlist. Now, you can sit here and drag and drop songs into these playlist windows. That's not very fun, and then you've only made one playlist. We want to set it up so it just churns them out day after day after day with no intervention once we hit the ground running. So, in the playlist option in RadioBoss is the Playlist Generator Pro. And the first window to pop up is the thing that you can use to generate a playlist. Playlists are generated using things called presets. Now you can see that I already have presets built in for a 24-hour clock from 0 to 8, from 8 to 1600, and 1600 to end of day. I've already built those presets. But here's what a preset is. A preset is basically just what you see on the screen here. It is a listing of categories of types of things that you would like to put into your playlist or your rotation. And then over here is the ordering and duration of each of those categories. So in this left-hand side, the categories don't have to be in any particular order. I've already created jingles, sweepers, sponsor mentions, and then 10-minute blocks of music that will be then interrupted by these things. Note that I don't have my station IDs in this list because, as mentioned yesterday, these items, just the routine sweepers, something silly about the station, or a jingle, or this program is brought to you by such and such, or we'd like to thank so-and-so for sponsoring WVLP. We'd like those to go in at either 10 and or 20 minutes past the hour, but that can be a little bit flexible, right? So they can go into the playlist. When you ask RadioBoss to create a playlist, and you might look ahead to see I'm asking eventually for this thing to be 8 hours long, it's not going to be able to nail 8 hours exactly. It might come up a little short, it might go a little long. And so you can't count on things that if you need them to be precisely at a particular time, like a formal station ID at the top of the hour. From what I can tell, it's better to just load those up as specific items over here in the event scheduler, where everything else is driven by these playlists. Okay, so like I said, jingles, sweepers, and sponsor mentions, and the duration of each of those, I just want, every time I use one of these or call up one of these things, I just need it to be one track. Whereas when I have these little blocks of music, easy listening, rock, hard rock, or heavy metal, those are going to roll out 10 minutes at a time. Okay, those are the categories of things I'm going to pick from. My rotation, what I've done here is built out a half an hour of programming that is going to get rotated through over and over and over out to a duration of 8 hours. And so my half-hour block has 10 minutes of easy listening music, a jingle, another 10 minutes of easy listening, then a sweeper and a sponsor mention, and then 10 minutes of rock. This specifically is for the midnight to 8 a.m., where I'm loading it up more on the easy listening than on the rock. The farther we get into the day, the balance is going to shift. So individual categories of things, the ordering in which you want those things to be played, and the total duration you want this to get churned through over and over to build out a full playlist for a given amount of time. That's how this works. So let's suppose, I look at this and go, you know what? I'm a metal dude. Okay. It's great to have some hard rock and kind of generic heavy metal, but you know what? I want to surprise people and I'm going to put in some death metal. I want to add death metal into, let's say, my late night, 4 p.m. to midnight auto preset. So each one of these things is a preset right now. When you create a new preset, these buttons up here, I'm sure you know what they do. When you start fresh, or if I click new, this will give me a template for a new preset, like so. Okay. But if I come over here Do I want to save this one? No, I don't. So here's the list of ones that I already have. So I'm going to go to my late afternoon preset. And so you can see I still have the same categories as before, but now I'm arranging them to my first 10-minute block of music is rock, second 10 minutes is rock, third 10 minutes is hard rock. Let's say that I'm going to replace this middle band of rock with death metal. Okay, so what I need to do is add a new category. I clicked, did I do that too fast? There's a little plus button down here below categories. That's what you click to add a category. And if you want to delete a category, you probably can guess that I would highlight it and click the minus. Now, when you make a category, you get a choice between specifying the duration as the number of tracks or as a duration. And remember my little categories, the jingles, sweepers, and sponsors, I just want one of those at a time. So those durations are tracks, but the music, I want to grab 10 minutes of music at a time. So death metal, I'm going to make this a 10-minute block. There's some other options that I don't really care about. Okay, and then that's the general tab. The tracks tab is where you're going to go to get these songs. So I'm going to search for a particular folder. Here's my music on my desktop. Here I go. I've got a folder for myself which is death and thrash metal. So I'm going to select that folder. Okay. Now in that folder, that's just my own umbrella category. I've got a subfolder for every different band. So like Megadeth, Metallica, Death, Atheist, Amon Amarth, right? They've all got their own folders. So when this thing is going to go search in those folders to pull music, I want to make sure to tell it to include those subfolders, or else it's just going to look at that top level folder. Okay, and then, you know, do you want those tracks to be pulled out in order? For me, that's not likely. I would rather just have random grabs. Okay, so then I could click OK, and now I have this category. And if I would like to come over here and delete this middle block of rock music with death metal, well, maybe I can go ahead and just with death metal highlight it. I can click this arrow, which will bump my hard rock set over here. And now I want to get rid of this wait, where'd it go? There we go, death metal. I want to take death metal and replace this hard rock. So I can either take the hard rock and I can move it back to the left, or can I just delete it? Yeah, I just hit my delete button and now it's gone. So now my 10-minute block has 10 minutes of rock, a jingle, 10 minutes of death metal, a couple of other swoosh things for the station, and then a final 10 minutes of hard rock. And when I click that it's time for this playlist to be made, RadioBoss is going to cycle through this 30-minute rotation 16 times to make me about 16 hours of music. Now again, that 16 hours is going to be as close as it can get, but it's not going to hit 16 hours exactly. It might be a little over, might be a little under. 8 hours, 16 cycles of half an hour up to 8 hours. So 8 hours-ish, maybe 7:58, maybe 8:02. Okay, it'll do its best. I'm not actually going to save this because I don't want to overwrite the thing I've already done. Now, what I can do here is if I want to execute this immediately, then I would click Generate or create an event to put in the event scheduler, or I could export it to the player. I wonder why that's not. Okay, there we go. It's generating a playlist. I click Generate. So I didn't mean to do that, but what the heck. We're just going to sit here and watch it generate. I mean, it's searching through all these directories and sorting through tracks that have different lengths to try to get my parameters adhered to. So it could take a while. But what we're watching here is if you want to generate a playlist manually and just have it go right into the airwaves or your streaming or whatever, you can do this. What I'm doing is getting all this architecture set up so that it can be called upon in an automated fashion by RadioBoss to generate playlists for the next day. Okay, now the playlist is generated, and so I could export it to the player and either set it at the end of the current playlist or just right over the playlist that's already there. I'm not actually going to do that. Now, once you have that in mind, you can start building commands here in the event scheduler to do that playlist generation automatically. And here's how that works. I'm going to take one of mine and I'm going to click edit just so you can see what would happen. Actually, that's a lie. I'm gonna create a new one. So in the event scheduler, I can make a new event by clicking add. And as we talked about in the previous video, we can come over here to the wizard and see all the options for events that can be set to take place. What we would want to do here with the thing we just created, that preset, is to generate a playlist. Select template. Well, there's our presets, right? So we just did this preset. I don't know how my dogs know that I'm sitting here making videos, but they're quiet like all day. But at one point during a video, they're going to start barking in the background. And my wife just sent something to my printer, so there's been a whole lot of background noise here. I bet we're getting an Amazon delivery or something. Anyway, we are automatically creating a playlist, so I've picked my preset. And what we're going to want to do is, well, we could just run the generator right now, like we just did, or because what we're going to do here is create an event that, say, the night before is going to generate a playlist that is going to get played at a certain time the following day. So we would want to save the generated playlist to a file. And I could type something here like, playlist C, 0, let's see, 0 to 8, 8 to 16, 24-hour clock. So 4 o'clock to midnight. All right, there's my new file name for this thing. You can browse for the location. I would put it in this folder I've made called playlists. And there you go. There's some playlists that were created automatically for yesterday, right, for December 15th. I'm not actually going to execute this, but that's what could happen. And then you can schedule a time for this to execute. I've set mine to trigger at like 8:50 p.m. to start making a playlist that's going to happen the next day. I want this to happen every single day. I don't want this to repeat during the day. I'm just going to use these days to tell me when to repeat it. How much time to wait in the queue? Well, this could be up to, I don't care really when this thing plays or when this thing gets executed, as long as it happens before midnight. So I could make this time to wait in the queue just about anything. And I certainly don't want this to overlay any playback, because this command wouldn't play the playlist. It's just going to generate the playlist. So I don't need any of this stuff. So I just showed you how to set up a playlist by creating categories, putting them into a rotation of a certain size. For me, it was half an hour, and then that half an hour would get cycled over and over to fill up whatever total duration you requested. And you can save that preset so that it can be called up by a command in the event scheduler that will use it to create a playlist, say, for the next day. Now here is the good stuff. Hopefully you can see this on your screen, but here is the command line. It got pretty big, didn't it? So you can see most of it here when it pops up. Run playlist generator pro. Let me get it back. .exe. That's going to execute this automatically using the preset, the auto from midnight to 8 a.m. preset, and deliver the output into a playlist file in a particular directory. And then you can actually see the file name here in the command box. So this particular event is creating the first playlist of the day, 8 hours long from midnight to 8 a.m. So it's called Playlist A. And RadioBoss has wildcards that you can use in file names. So $why is going to currently right now drop in 2022 for the year. A couple of weeks after I post this, it will start putting in 2023. The $MM is going to put in the current month, and day DD is going to put in the current day. The .m3u8 is just sort of a default file prefix for playlists. And if I set this to run, at 8:50 p.m. the night before the day that I want the playlist to go live, this item right here, the $DD, is going to put in the current date. But I want it to play tomorrow, right? So what I can do is add this little extra $+1D that will increment the day counter by 1, so that when this command is executed on December 16th, 2022, the digits that come up will be 2022-12-17. That's going to get stored into the file, and so then the command to read that file and play it can just reference whatever the current date is when that command gets executed. Okay, so once this is in there, again, this thing is told to go every day of the week. It doesn't repeat during the day. It doesn't wait in the queue. It's an enabled event to make sure that it happens. And I honestly don't know what happens if you don't click enabled event. Maybe it just doesn't get executed. You give it an informal name again so that you can see it much more easily over here in the event scheduler. So I have these generate daily playlist commands set up for my 3 major playlists of the day. I hope that all made sense. I think I lost my train of thought with that little interruption, but I've heard the dogs barking again because I saw the mail truck go by. So I'm going to quit recording now. I've been going at it for almost 25 minutes. Obviously, I'm not good at keeping this short. I was going to try to show the commands to actually call up and play a playlist, but I'll save that for the next video, which will be cleverly titled Video 3.